Okay, so today we're diving into something kind of huge in the tech world, something you might have only seen in like futuristic movies. We're talking about Meta's Sam 2.
And what's really got people talking about SAM 2 is how it's basically ripping up the rulebook on computer vision.
Ripping up the rule book, how so?
Well, we've all seen computers recognize like a picture of a cat, right? But SAM 2, this is different. This is about understanding objects in motion, even when they're partially hidden. Imagine, almost like teaching a computer to actually see.
Okay, so not just pointing at a picture and saying cat. Now it's like the computer can track that cat moving all over the place, disappearing behind stuff, and still know it's the same cat. How does that even work?
It's kind of like, think about how you'd teach a kid to identify that cat.
You'd point out its shape, how it moves, right?
Exactly. You'd show them how it interacts with stuff. Well, SAM 2, it learns in a similar way, but on this massive scale. It's been trained on an insane amount of data, images, videos, all sorts of stuff. And it uses that to pick out and then understand objects with, honestly, mind-blowing accuracy.
So it's almost like Sam 2 is building a mental model of that cat, just like we do.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild. But how does that actually translate into something we can use?
One of the coolest things about SAM 2 is how interactive it is. Like, you can give it basic instructions. Let's say you've got a picture and you want to separate one person from a crowd.
Okay, so like drawing a rough circle around that person in the photo.
Exactly. And even if there are other people kind of blocking them, SAM 2 uses what it's learned to isolate them perfectly. It figures out exactly which pixels make up that specific person.
It's like giving a computer a magnifying glass, right? It sees the whole picture, but then it can also zoom in on the fine details and understand all the individual parts. That is powerful stuff.
Yeah.
So where does something like this even begin to have an impact?
Well, let's take the metaverse, for example. You put on those VR goggles, and instead of using clunky controllers, you just reach out with your hand.
And it just works. You're seamlessly interacting with objects just like you would in real life.
That's the future SAM 2 could unlock. Forget those clunky headsets. We're talking full-on sci-fi immersion here.
Now that's what I'm talking about. But it's not just about making games better, is it? This has some serious real-world applications.
Oh, absolutely. Think about the medical field. Imagine a doctor using SAM 2 to analyze a medical scan.
It could highlight potential problem areas.
Exactly, leading to faster and more accurate diagnoses.
Hold on, let me get this straight. We're talking about a future where computers could be instrumental in catching things like diseases earlier than ever before. That's huge, especially for anyone who's ever had a health scare or knows someone who has. This technology could literally save lives.
And we're just getting started. Think about video editing. Right now, you've got to spend hours, maybe even days, to get rid of that one thing you don't want, or if you want to change the background. SAM 2 could make those tasks, honestly, incredibly easy. And not just for the pros, but for anyone.
No more spending hours trying to edit out that random person who photobombed your vacation picture.
Exactly. And this is really just the tip of the iceberg. The potential here in robotics, security, even self-driving cars, it's massive. And what's really groundbreaking is that Meta made SAM 2 open source.
Wait, hold on. Open source, so anyone who knows how to code can just get their hands on this tech.
That's right. They can build on it, push the boundaries. Who knows what we'll see? It's pretty rare in the tech world, but Meta basically said, here's the key to the candy store. Go wild.
Okay, so anyone who can code can just grab this Sam 2 thing and start building, huh?
Uh,
But what about the rest of us? I mean, I took one coding class back in college, and I'm pretty sure I barely passed.
That's actually something Meta was really thoughtful about. They've released a version of SAM 2 that's, well, it's made for pretty much anyone.
So like a Sam 2 for dummies.
Kind of. But it's not just for dummies. It's for educators, artists, entrepreneurs, anyone who's got an idea and wants to, see what's possible. Meta really wants to democratize this technology.
So we're not just talking about changing how computers see. We're talking about changing who gets to shape the future of this technology even. That's a pretty big deal. Can you give me an example of how someone like me, without a computer science degree, could actually use this thing?
Absolutely.
Mm.
Think about a graphic designer who's building a website or putting together a marketing campaign. With this user-friendly SAM 2, they could grab images, isolate specific objects, ditch the backgrounds, even create some pretty cool animations, all without breaking a sweat.
No more spending a week's paycheck on expensive software or outsourcing simple edits.
Exactly. And it's not just limited to design. Remember those smart glasses we talked about?
The ones that tell you the calorie count of your lunch just by looking at it.
Those could get incredibly accurate with SAM2. It could analyze what's in your food, how big your portions are, even factor in things like cooking methods, all to give you really precise nutritional info.
Okay, that's way beyond any calorie counting app I've ever seen. It's like having a personal nutritionist on call 247. But what about those bigger picture applications we were talking about, like in medicine? How does this user-friendly approach play into fields like that?
Oh, that's where things get super interesting. Imagine a medical student using a SAM2-powered app to study anatomy. They could isolate and rotate 3D models of organs, zoom in on specific tissues, even simulate surgical procedures, all in a safe virtual environment.
It's like taking those expensive and kind of creepy cadaver labs and making them totally virtual, but way more accessible. Okay, so we've covered some pretty mind-blowing stuff here with Sam 2. Smart glasses, revolutionizing medical training, even making video editing a piece of cake. But with all this talk about how easy it is to use, I gotta ask, is it almost too good to be true? Are there any downsides we haven't really talked about?
You're right to be thinking about that. I mean, every new technology, especially something this powerful, it comes with, it comes with its own set of
And
challenges.
like what kind of challenges are we talking about here?
Well, we've talked a lot about how incredibly accurate SAM2 is at analyzing images and videos. But imagine that power in the wrong hands.
Okay, yeah, I see where you're going with this.
Things like deepfakes, they're already a big concern online. But with something like SAM2, well, those fakes could become even more convincing, even harder to spot.
So we need to be thinking about how to protect ourselves from the potential misuse of this technology right alongside all these amazing benefits.
Exactly. It's not enough to just focus on what we can do. We need to be just as focused, if not more, on preventing SAM2 from being used in harmful ways.
So are there any safeguards in place? What's being done to kind of address those concerns?
That's the million-dollar question, and thankfully it's something that a lot of developers and researchers are already on top of.
So they're aware of the risks.
Oh, absolutely. There's this big push right now to build more transparency and accountability into AI systems, from the ground up.
What does that look like in practice? Like, how do you actually build transparency into an AI?
Well, for one, there's this idea of being way more open about the data sets that are being used to train these AI models.
So knowing what went into the AI's education, so to speak.
Exactly. And there are some really interesting ideas floating around out there, like creating a digital watermark that's embedded in any image or video created by AI.
So you'd always be able to tell what's real and what's been generated. That's fascinating.
It is. We're talking about basically writing the rule book for this technology as we go, figuring out the best practices to make sure it's used responsibly.
It's a little daunting when you think about it like that.
It is, and that's exactly why we need everyone at the table. This isn't just about the tech world anymore. We need everyone, from ethicists to policymakers to artists, to really think about the implications of this technology.
It's like we're standing at the edge of something brand new. A little scary, maybe, but also really exciting.
Exactly. It really feels like we're seeing the future unfold right in front of us, and the possibilities, they really are limitless.
Well, that's about all the time we have for today's deep dive. It's been quite a journey, from those sci-fi smart glasses to the potential for revolutionizing everything from medicine to, well, just about every other industry out there. And of course, let's not forget about those ethical questions we touched on.
A lot to think about.
Definitely. But if we can approach this technology with a healthy dose of, I don't know, cautious optimism, then who knows what incredible breakthroughs we might see in the very near future. Thanks for joining us.